Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I am Jacob Milham, and thankfully this go around we have Jeremy Greco joining me again. Jeremy, I know our listeners missed you.
Did they? You think?
I think they did. I think
I
they
mean,
did.
I missed me. I was without power Sunday after a horrible storm came through
Mm,
the area, so that's why I wasn't here. It wasn't by choice, believe me.
I swear it was. And listen, I'm just hoping that I don't lose power while we're here because I'm in like the epicenter of this snowstorm coming through coastal Virginia right now. We're
Boy,
predicted to get like a foot of snow and the most snow that this area has seen in a couple of decades. But that's why I'm talking a little fast because we have a very special guest with us this evening, author Marshall Garvey. Marshall, how we doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. I've known about your podcast for a while, and this is one of the ones I was most excited to talk to. So I'm really, really excited to be here.
Well, thank you, Marshall. So
flattery
let
will get you everywhere.
we are pretty fickle, I would imagine. No, but in all actuality, so Marshall, I've been trying to do some more baseball reading, and I remember seeing you. I think it was you were showing off the cover design for this book a few months back. I'm getting ahead of myself. The book that Marshall's writing, releasing on March 27th, 2025, opening day for all you baseball nerds out there. The book is called Interstate 85: The Royals, the Cardinals, and the Show Me World Series. Now, number one, cover looks awesome. I love this. If I saw this thing on a bookshelf somewhere, I'm picking it up. All right, this is piquing my interest immediately.
Don't judge a book by its cover, Jacob.
I'm judging. I really am. And frankly, from the cover, this is a pretty dang good book. Marshall, give us the elevator pitch. What is this book about?
This book is about the 1985 World Series, but in a much deeper way. It's more than just, the myopic focus on Don Denginger's missed call in Game 6, which is what most people talk about. This book is about roads. I seized the imagery of Interstate 70, which connects Kansas City and St. Louis, and I turned this book into a story about the individual and collective paths and roads traveled by the Royals, the Cardinals, and Don Denginger to the 85 series, and then where those roads traveled afterwards, leading all the way up to the Royals' next title in 2015. And so it tells a much deeper, human story than just one bad call and like Andujar's meltdown or what have you.
Yeah, Marshall, and I'm gonna date myself here. This World Series is well before my time. So the narrative that I've grown up with is the Royals were pretty good that year, but they won the World Series because of this call. And now I'm nowhere near finished with the book, but I am just loving the context that I'm getting from this book. Like, my gosh, it's very immersive, and I feel so much more informed about the roots of both of these franchises, but not like in a granular level. Like, I get just enough, but we want to get to the 85 World Series. So I'm loving it so far. I'm hoping to have a review up on royalsreview.com for all you readers out there, right? Just a couple of days before it releases. If you're already intrigued, make sure you go open up an Amazon tab or something. You could pre-order it there or at any major book retailer. I mean, Jeremy, are you looking forward to reading this book? This is something that I'm really happy about.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about your kind of experience. My experience with the 85 World Series is that my dad was a Royals fan, is a Royals fan. My mom was a Cardinals fan, and I was about a month from being born when the 85 World Series was being played. So they were watching it in different rooms. My mom likes to tell me that I was a Cardinals fan at that time because I didn't have a choice. And they recorded the World Series. We had VHS tapes of the World Series that I was able to watch. And, I, of course, grew up hearing the call, the call, the call. And to discover, later on that, oh, that was in game 6 of the World Series. And there was a whole extra game to be played. And then, all the stuff I've learned. So just every time I learn more about the 85 World Series is just an absolute treat. So definitely looking forward to digging more into this book for sure.
And Marshall, where so tell our listeners about yourself a little bit. Where are you from originally? Why did you get interested in the 85 World Series of all things?
So I'm a lifelong Californian, born in Southern California. I'm a Dodgers fan, actually, second generation. Not related to Steve Garvey, just so everyone knows. I live in the Sacramento area, but I'm a big picture baseball fan, and I've always had a place in my heart for like the Midwest and small market teams because they don't get as much advocacy. They get overlooked. And the 85 series, like just for as long as I've been into baseball, there was just always like a little voice in my head, like, there's more to this than just the Dankinger call. It just stood out in my mind, unlike any other World Series. For most people, they'll be like, oh, yeah, the 85 series, the blown call. I was like, no, there's more here. So 1 month into quarantine, April 15th, 2020, I was on a train of thought. I was like, hey, I got to work on my next book. I'm going to have more time to write now. So I thought about the 85 series. I came up with the title for the book that day, and I thought, yeah, no one's really touched this. So, long story short, trust me, it's a crazy long story over all these past 5 years. I developed it throughout quarantine, started conducting interviews the next year. First three were Buddy Biancalana, Mark Gubiza, and Don Dingener himself. And just as the book kept developing, I found way more amazing stories that really show the 85 series was a great moment in time and deserves new appreciation.
There are a couple of interviews that I want to touch on because so when the Royals went back to the postseason, they had an ALDS exit against the New York Yankees, and fans who didn't know about George Brett's competitiveness got reintroduced to that when he was talking about his dislike for the New York franchise. I would say you had a chance to sit down and talk with Brett in this book. Now I haven't seen his full rundown inside the book, but what was his mood about the 1985 World Series?
Oh, okay, so disclosure, I didn't sit down in person with anyone. All 27 interviews were remote, 26 by phone, one by email. George and I talked by phone while he was walking his dog in Mission Hills. George is such class. He was great to talk to. So George's disposition about the 85 series, like I mostly talked to him about, like, he had the big performance in the ALCS against the Blue Jays. We talked a lot about that. As far as the 85 series, he just, when we talked about the Danger call, he just said, like, I couldn't really tell. The play didn't look so smooth. And like he said to me, and he said this in other interviews too, like, hey, like, and like Jeremy was touching on, you still got a game 7 to play. So yeah, George, he mostly just told like his perspective. He told me the story of how he approached Brett Saberhagen before the final out of Game 7 was like, no one's getting to you first. I'm giving you a hug first. So if you know that moment too, a lot of Royals fans can picture that. So George didn't really doesn't care too much for the victim complex. I think when I got to the Danginger call and then the question sequence, he was like, "Well, Cardinals fans are still going on about that." So, um, but yeah, George was a blast to talk to, and it was even keel perspective on everything.
Excellent, excellent. How was what was Dankinger's view on it? Because like this is I don't know, this is just one of those moments in an umpire's career that is like kind of defined his overall legacy. Like what was his approach to it all?
Oh, so Denkinger, absolute blast to talk to. I talked to him also by phone on Valentine's Day 2021. He was joined by his wife Gail and two of their daughters, Denise and Dana. Don's perspective, he learned, and I show this in the book in the last two chapters, he learned to embrace the call. He'd always talk about it, he'd always sign memorabilia about it. He learned to accept it. So when I talked to him, I tried to ask questions more about his early life and maybe other things, but we did talk about the call, and he did not shy away from it. He talked about going back to the umpire's dressing room after Game 6, and Peter Uberoth, the commissioner, telling him he got it wrong. And you said to me, it was like, oh, it's the sickest I'd ever felt. But at the end of the day, it's done, and yeah, I had to live with it. So yeah, he kept about the same even perspective he had before, and I was just happy to talk to him about other things and get some other stories about like his earlier life.
Jeremy, so I feel like I've been outspoken on this podcast about this before because I still feel like if the Royals have a rival, it is the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, it's been a very one-sided affair in my lifetime, so I haven't seen the heydays where they were both heavyweights at the same time. I mean, this is I don't know, this just kind of harkens back to the best days of Royals baseball. I don't even, we had 2014 and 15 But that 85 team, they were coming off of like a decade plus of being competitive, right,
Right.
Jeremy?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So this just sounds like a great story that does need to be told. And Marshall, I do. It is a problem that you can go look up baseball books and you'll find about 5 dozen that are about the New York Yankees from the 1980s to 2005, but you don't find that many Kansas City Royals baseball books out there. So we do appreciate you telling the story. What was, I know this book's going to come out March 20th, opening day, and you're eventually it's going to be on to the next book, on to the next project. What has been one of your big takeaways from this book?
So many. I mean, this book was as much a personal journey that led me to be a much better person and writer overall. It runs pretty deep. Without even getting into personal takeaways, I just think my biggest takeaway is that the 85 series and really any World Series, there's more than just the box score. There's a lot of unique human stories you may not be aware of or thinking of. But when you dive deep and you know about these backstories that led to the I-70 series, you realize how special it is and how special all the people that made it happen are. Like, again, I talked to 27 people, like from Hall of Famers like George Brett and Ozzie Smith to more obscure people like Joe Beckwith of the Royals or Kurt Kepshire of the Cardinals, who wasn't even on the playoff roster, and they had some of the best stories. So I think I learned, like, yeah, even the most overlooked figures will. That's actually another takeaway. Some of the lesser known people will have the best stories.
I love that. I love that. Jeremy, do you have any questions for Marshall?
Uh, you talked about having your interviews with Brett and with Dinkinger, and then with some of those lesser known guys. Who was the hardest to get a hold of to get an interview? Do you think was it one of those the Bretts, or was it one of those guys who were maybe lesser known?
Okay, that's a good question. Give me a moment here. I don't think. Let's see, who was the hardest to get a hold of? Some of them definitely took some work. Give me just a moment here. I had to go through. It wasn't necessarily hard. My first Cardinal interview was Ricky Horton, and I had to like go through a few things. Then I eventually contacted Fellowship of Christian Athletes, the headquarters, which is right by Kauffman Stadium, and they gave me his
Mhm.
email address. But he immediately said it. Yeah, he'd do it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Dinkinger took some fishing, and I was also really hesitant about calling him at first, but he agreed to it when I called. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to drag it too much.
You're
Just
fine.
who was the hardest? And there were just so many different interviews. Yeah, I don't think it's not like anyone was really stubborn either. Everyone was willing to talk. There wasn't any like, begrudging participants. So yeah, I think unless I suddenly remember and circle back to it, I think they were all fairly easy to get a hold of at the end of the day, at least when I needed to get a hold of them. So,
What was your favorite interview question and answer that didn't make it into the book,
oh gosh,
or at
there
least
are
a
quite a
favorite?
few. There are quite a few. The best stories are still there. One of my favorites, I talked to Royals reliever Steve Farr, who was the big hero, underrated hero in the ALCS in Game 3. Farr described to me he came up in the minor league system that year in AAA Omaha, and he learned how to pitch to left-handed batters thanks to Jamie Quirk, longtime Royals backup catcher. And Farr told me that he hit left-handed, so what Quirk would do to show him how to pitch to lefties was he would move his glove at will, like all over the zone. And that helped Farr get a hold of pitching to left-handed batters. And that didn't make it into the book, but that was relevant because he had to come in and face that Blue Jays team in the ALCS, which was loaded with lefty sluggers. So that's one really good story that had to get cut just for run time, so to speak.
That's cool. I always just from I haven't done a lot of interviews, but every once in a while it's just like, some of those stories that don't make it are some of the coolest, and you're just like, "Oh, I wish there was somewhere to put this."
No,
Somewhere that you could shoehorn it.
yes.
But so, Marshall, before we get on out of here, I do have to ask one thing that I propose to anyone we have on the podcast is what is your favorite ballpark meal or snack?
I really like hot links. I know hot dogs is the tradition, but I like hot links for the flavor and spice. Especially would like to get them at the Oakland Coliseum. Now no more. Thanks a lot, John Fisher. But like there's not the only
Yeah.
place I could get them. So yeah, I would say hot links are my favorite
Okay.
ballpark.
Reminds me, you said you're a Sacramento guy, and now you're saying, "Oh, I can't go to the Oakland Coliseum anymore." Is it they're in Sacramento now, so is that any more convenient for you to try to get to some athletics games, or
It should be, but the prices are too high and a lot of tickets are sold out. So, because they're
oh
playing in a
goodness,
minor league stadium, so it's
Oh,
a
that's true.
smaller
That's true.
right?
capacity. I may have a way to get to a game this season, but it's not convenient. So, yeah, it's kind of
That's too bad.
frustrating.
I was hoping at least, somebody would be benefiting from all this, and maybe it would be the Sacramento baseball fans, but it sounds like it's not.
Apparently not.
Yeah, apparently not.
Hottest ticket in town, the Sacramento Athletics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hottest because the weather.
Yeah, that too.
Oh yeah, it'll get hot.
So, Marshall, thank you again for sitting down with us. I really hope that Royals and Cardinals fans, or just baseball fans, young and old, pick up this book and come away just with this great story. Like I said, they can go find it at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, University of Missouri Press, or any other major book retailer. Marshall, is there anywhere else that they can like find you on social media or find your work?
Of course, you can go to my official writer's website, www.marshallpgarvey.com. You can find me on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, what have you. Especially accessible on my writer's website. I give my number out there, an email address, and what have you. So yeah, just head to there and just connect with me there. And if anyone's interested in this book, please buy it and let everyone know about it. Proud of this. And more importantly, this book isn't about me. It's about the people of the 85 series to whom I owe a big debt of gratitude, and their stories deserve to be read far and wide. So, to everyone in Kansas City, Missouri, and elsewhere, I can't wait for you to read it.
Excellent, excellent. Marshall Garvey, everyone, again, the author of Interstate 85, the Royals, the Cardinals, and the Show Me World Series, set to release March 27th, 2025, opening day. And yeah, go pick it up. You're not going to regret it, folks. Marshall, have a good one now.
Take care.
All righty, folks. So, yep, the where you can find that book is going to be linked down in the podcast description below. I'll also toss Marshall's website down there so you can go follow along with his work. Jeremy, believe it or not, we actually do have some royal stuff to talk
Yeah,
about today. Yeah.
we sure do.
Well, I mean, it was kind of weird with we had I had a great conversation with Eric Cross about fantasy baseball and how the Royals kind of fit into that right now. So please go check that out in our most recent episode before this. But where do you want to start? It just seems like there's a lot of little tidbits that Royals fans should know.
Well, I guess what makes the most sense to me to start with is all the extensions that the Royals
Yeah.
handed out.
Yeah.
So, JJ Piccolo got a contract extension. Well deserved, I think. My favorite part of there's a lot of, I think, debate among some people about how much the improvement on the Royals roster is Piccolo, how much is updates to scouting, and how much Piccolo influenced that, and how much is from increased spending from John Sherman versus David Glass, and even John Sherman's first couple of years. But I think the one thing that we can definitely credit Piccolo with is his openness and honesty and the lack of baloney that he
Yeah.
provides us when he does interviews. Now he'll downplay, I think, sometimes, like I remember the whole we're 75% done constructing this roster, only he was out there offering dozens of millions of dollars to Anthony Santander.
Yep.
So he'll downplay stuff sometimes, but it's so refreshing to get to the end of a season and for the general manager to say, "Hey, listen, corner outfield's a problem. Offense is a problem. We want Michael Walker back. We got to improve the offense." And to do that and try to do that. Whereas I feel like, and I know I harp on this a lot, and maybe I need to let this go at some point. But Dayton Moore was always a guy who was like, everyone's going to be better next year. We feel really good about where this team is. And he would just say things that were just obviously untrue and obviously overly optimistic. And it would just irritate the heck out of me.
Yeah.
So to that difference, and I know that there were multiple off seasons where I was like, if what Dayton Moore is saying is true, this team is going the wrong direction and I'm mad. And then a whole bunch of people would reply to me and say, well, what he's saying isn't true. And I'm like, then why is he saying it? So, but to have a GM that says what is obvious to all of us, I think, about where the team is and what needs to happen next is so refreshing. It makes my job so much more pleasant because I hate being talked to like I'm stupid. And I feel like JJ Piccolo treats the fans and the media like they have brains in their heads, and it's really nice.
I think that a person can both be a straight shooter and keep their cards close to their chest.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and I think that's how I would describe Piccolo, because, like, I'm sorry, no general manager out there, even the most transparent ones, are gonna say, yeah, we're talking to X, Y, and Z, and this is what the terms are looking like, things like that. Like, I no one should expect that.
For
But
sure.
it does seem like he is as transparent as he can be while still being a competent general manager and executive vice president. I do remember when, I think it was after the 2023 season, one of the biggest gripes from fans was like, "Oh, well, we have this new person in charge, but it's still the same front office. It's still Dayton Moore's guys and gals." And I remember I saw the press release come out for the hiring, or the extension, excuse me. I didn't realize this, but just in baseball ops alone, the Royals have had a turnover of more than 30 people
Oh, I didn't realize
since
that either.
since he took over as executive vice president in September 2022. So that is like 2 years, 2.5 years. That's a lot of new
The
faces and new
the
ideas.
the stuff about these are all the same people was also, I think, blown out of proportion because there wasn't anything necessarily wrong with the people that the team had, but the team added analytics people, which they needed. They needed like there wasn't necessarily anything wrong with their scouting, but they needed to add to that, to the eyeball scouting, the analytics of the scouting and the analytics to the coaching. And to see them, and Cal Eldred was absolutely a problem. Mike Matheny probably a problem. So and they did get canned, right? So and the one of the things that always struck me was people were very upset that JJ Piccolo was the guy after Dayton Moore. They're like, he was Dayton Moore's right hand man. He's just going to do exactly the same thing. And he came in talking differently than Dayton Moore did. And so I said, can we give him a chance? I wasn't, would I have preferred they go outside the team at the time? I think I would have, but when Piccolo came out and said, things are going to be different, we're going to have to change, here's how. And then he hired a manager from outside the organization, from a well-respected organization, the Rays, and then a pitching coach from a well-respected organization from in the Guardians, and on and on and on. It's like, okay, so JJ Piccolo isn't from outside the organization, but he is bringing in voices to listen to that are from outside the organization. And not everything Dayton Moore did was bad. Still, I have to applaud Dayton Moore's, his loyalty to his guys. I think he went too far at times, obviously, but I think the idea of loyalty from a team to its players is undervalued, especially in like, are we rooting for laundry or are we rooting for guys, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm rooting. If you're rooting for laundry, fine. I don't hate you for that. I don't think you're a bad person. But one of the reasons I've never been able to get invested in college sports is I'm rooting for the guys. And those guys, no matter how good they are gone in 4 years or less. College basketball, college baseball, that's how it works. That's how college sports work. I'm not interested in that. I want to see my guys out there all the time. So some loyalty is good, I think. And I think that's a good transition to one of the other extensions, which was Cole Ragans, who did not, to be clear, did not sell out any of his free agency years.
No, he did not.
He got a new deal for this year, and he locked in his salary for the first 2 years of arbitration.
Mm-hmm. Which
And
he's still going to get paid handsomely. He's not leaving. I don't think he's leaving a bunch of money on the table.
well, that's where I come with the loyalty stuff. So first of all, he's still left. His third year of arbitration is open. So that's where you're gonna get your big arbitration dollars anyway. If
Hmm.
he pitches like a Cy Young guy for the next 2 years, he's gonna get paid. Or for the next 3 years, he's gonna get paid when he gets to that final arb year. Whether that's through the arbitration or the Royals get him a new extension, whatever, we'll see what happens when we get there. But what this did, and what you were alluding to, I think, Jacob, is that he did not leave much money on the table. The estimates I've seen suggest that if he were to pitch the next 2 seasons, because that third year contract would be based on the 2 seasons, he would expect to make 2, maybe 3 million more than he's been guaranteed now.
Mm.
Not a ton of money to leave on the table. And in the meantime, this is also a guy who's had 2 Tommy John surgeries. If he gets hurt, the money's his.
Yes,
So
that's a good point.
the Royals, and I think, I don't have the quote in front of me, but JJ Piccolo, in talking about this, was a little bit like, listen, we wanted to give Cole Ragans some security here. That was the focus. Was, Cole, don't worry about, maximizing your profitability for the next 2 years. You're gonna get your money. Just take care of yourself and do your thing. And I appreciate that approach to, the Royals. Is it a smart business deal if you strip all of the humanity out of it? No, it's not, because they've barely bought themselves any kind of discount with this. And they've locked themselves into, well, Cole Ragans has his arm falls off. That's it. You've given him, the money's his.
Yeah.
Can't do anything about it.
Nope. Really can't.
So from a strictly money sense, it's not a business deal, but good business, and I think this is something a lot of people have forgotten. Good business is also about people. It's
Yes.
also about treat your people well and they treat you well. Right? And we see this from time and time again with union workers. We see this with the studies that show, like, hey, if you drop to a 4-day work week, you get more productivity out of your employees. When you treat your people well, they treat your business well. And so, one of the things that Dayton Moore, one of the big positives, I guess, from Dayton Moore was how he treated Salvador Perez. They had Salvador Perez on this amazing team-friendly deal. And, obviously Salvi was getting shafted on that as he was turning in all-star year after all-star year, not getting paid like it. And Dayton Moore said, listen, let's fix it. And paid him. Didn't have to. Got only like an extra year or two, but really bumped up that salary. And that's how you treat your people. So that was one thing Dayton Moore did. That's one thing that JJ Piccolo has kept, as we're seeing with Cole Ragans. Treat your people well. Then people want to come play for you. Then people want to play harder for you when they're here. And we saw this also. I think this is something. The Royals were the only team that didn't cut any minor leaguers 20 during the pandemic, right? The only team that didn't cut any front office staff. Some guys had to take pay cuts. Some people took pay cuts, but nobody got cut. And that's treating, and again, minor leaguers, front office staff don't get paid anything compared to the major leaguers. So that wasn't like, oh, look at how much John Sherman spends. That was just treat your people well. Everybody else, all the other teams said, we have an excuse to save a couple of bucks, so we're going to do it. And the Royals said, a couple of bucks isn't worth treating our people poorly. And I want to praise that kind of behavior when I can. So the Cole Ragans deal doesn't change much for the Royals. It probably doesn't. I mean, it probably doesn't cost them anymore. Probably because I honestly kind of, based on, he was real healthy last year. I know there were the 2 Tommy Johns, but most pitchers, it feels like, have Tommy Johns. His got botched the first time. It happens. I think he looks like he's healthy now. I'm not too worried about his health going forward, so I don't think the Royals have damaged themselves monetarily, but they made their guy happy. They gave him some security. Good on them. Thank you, good people.
Yeah, and I think I can't add anything else to that, because you hit all the points that matter. This might not be, a textbook example of a smart business move, but when you look at building a culture and building a good baseball team, this is a pretty valuable move. It really, really is. So kudos to the Royals for getting this done. And this is one less thing that Reagans has to worry about going
Yep.
into the offseason.
Yep.
Because he would pitch this year and then he would hit the first year of arbitration next year. Well, after this year, he's got to worry about Are they going to pay me? Oh, this is really what they think I'm worth, and yada yada yada. I feel like we got a little bit of that with Singer. What
Yeah,
was it in
for sure.
2022?
For
I
sure, there
think.
was absolute conflict with Singer because of the arbitration stuff that they went through.
Yeah, and you know what? He had a pretty bad year after that, after the arbitration disputes, I think is how I would
Yeah,
put it. So this makes sense, and good job for getting it done. The other extension, if you want to call it that, that happened was manager Matt Quatrero. The Royals went ahead and picked up the club option for 2026, so he is going to be the manager for at least 2 more years. I know, like, that's not a glowing recommendation, but at the end of the day, like, that's a lot of job security. He's not managing.
money security.
Yeah, true. He's not
Because
managing like
managers
his
aren't
job's on the
hired to
line.
get fired, as the
True.
saying goes.
There you
So
go.
picking up that doesn't mean he's going to be coaching here next year, but it does mean he's going to get paid either way.
There you go. I like that. I like that.
Which again is an example of treating your guys well. Because
Yes.
what's Matt Quatrero going to do if they don't pick up that option? He's still got to manage this year,
Yes.
but now he's got to wonder, do I have a job next year? Am I going to get paid next year? Well, now he doesn't have to worry. He's going to get paid. Probably has a job. I mean, I think he should have a job. Excuse me. I think he's been a tremendous manager for the Royals, and I look forward to him being a manager for the Royals for years to come.
Yeah. Hopefully so. But one thing that Royals fans do need to turn their attention to is to the diamond, because not to the diamond because you can't watch it, unfortunately. You can listen to it though on the radio. Like, Cactus League opener is this Friday, Jeremy.
A
Yeah, it kind of snuck up on us. I
little
feel
bit.
like uh, Royals already announced some of the pitchers that we're going to see. This is always one of the entertaining parts about Cactus League action. Is like, well, who are we actually going to see pitch today, and for how long? Reportedly, Daniel Lynch the fourth is set to start it, and it's going to be 2 innings of him, and then in no particular order, Noah Cameron and Chandler Champlain will also get some action against the Texas Rangers. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Cameron and Champlain. I was surprised when have you heard of Robo Scout from Baseball America, Jeremy?
I'm not.
So Robo Scout is what they call their complete analytical rankings of
Okay.
prospects and stuff like that. And they released their top 100 prospects, and they had Champlain as the second best Royals prospect and a top one
Behind
behind
Greg
Carter
Milne?
Jensen.
Carter Jensen. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. They had 3 Royals in the top 100. It was Jensen, Champlain, and Blake Mitchell. They didn't have Jack Caglione in the top 100 at all.
Wow, this is some weird rankings.
Yeah. Hey,
Not
they
saying they're
preface
wrong, but they weird, man.
they
And this
preface it
is not
very well.
consensus.
No, no, they preface it very well by saying, like, hey, this is just by the numbers. Okay. There might be some overlap with what people are saying, but this is what Robo Scout says. So that kind of turned me on, like, well, I've really written off Champlain, especially since he was Rule 5 eligible and no one picked him up. I was like, oh, well, okay, he'll be some nice bullpen depth if needed. But hey, maybe he's got some stuff.
Maybe I tend to think that this is in that same vein. This is obviously not the same thing as asking a large language model a question
Yeah.
and getting an obviously wrong answer, but I think it's probably trending in that direction of like, yeah, okay, if you're just looking at the numbers, are you looking at the right numbers? Are you looking at enough of the numbers?
True. Back to who is starting for the Royals on Friday. It is going to be interesting because Daniel Lynch the fourth, he's a dark horse in the race, but he is at the end of the day still in the race for that number 5
Sure, sure
spot
he is.
in the rotation.
Sure he
Sure,
is.
Jeremy. Now, we have to have open competition, right? We can't
Do
just give
we?
it to Chris Bubich. But yeah, so unfortunately, you're not going to be able to watch that game, but you will be able to listen to it. I'm pulling it up because I don't want to tell folks wrong. You're going to be able to listen to it on 96.5 The Fan there in Kansas City, or on the MLB app audio. First pitch is at 2:05 Central Standard Time. Jeremy, what else is going on with the Royals? There's a lot of stuff that's been talked about on royalsreview.com, so I don't want to take away from that. Between Melendez's new swing, its importance. Did you see what's coming out about the automatic balls and strikes? Did you see that we're going to
I
see that?
I missed the automatic balls and strikes thing. Obviously, I've been watching the Melendez swing stuff with excitement. I mean, I'm in the same position I've been in, but I'm still in that position, which is, boy, that swing looks a lot better. Can he keep doing it? Will he still access his power?
Yep, that's very true. And you know what? I tried my amateur hand at it. I think it was last month on Twitter, like putting some of his batting practice next to his swing from 2024. You could tell that there was a difference, but you couldn't tell that there was a big difference. Now, Andy Rogers has a whole article about it up on MLB.com, and she has the side profile, and that's where you can really see the difference. And I forget who said it. You know what? It was Jack Johnson with Locked On Royals. He's down there in Arizona. And he said that MJ Melendez looks like a completely different guy
I
at the
mean,
plate.
watching the videos, he does. And I was reading Annie's article. One of the things I really liked about it, she had, or maybe it was, I was reading an excerpt from Annie's article in Craig Brown's newsletter, which was an interview with hitting coach Keone Duren, where he talked about, you know, Melendez's ability to kind of be off platform and still make contact with the ball. And I'm like, yes, this is what I've been talking about. Is like the guy, I don't understand how he makes contact with the ball with the wild ways he moves in the box.
Yeah.
And Keone was basically like, so we're going to remove a lot of that stuff. And hopefully this is going to, instead of just being like, wow, I can't believe he made contact like that. It's now that he's swinging like this, he's making contact in a way that makes sense, and it's doing really good things.
Yes, precisely. So yeah, this is definitely gonna be another thing that I'm looking forward to seeing on the broadcasts that we get. I'm sure that we'll, see clips of it. I know that the Royals are aware of the fan base's enrapturement with this. Like this is something that a lot of fans are talking about, and we're all hopeful
I mean,
that this has good results.
it's in the Royals' best interest to really focus on it too, because they didn't bring in another outfielder. And they still could. Still could. John Schreiber got traded for a week into spring training last year. There's plenty of time to still make a move. And of course they can always make a move at the deadline if things still haven't been fixed. But I think where I'm really looking, I mean, I'm gonna watch MJ Melendez. I'm gonna see, like, let's see the swing, let's see him have some success with it. But the real checkpoint for me, I think, is gonna be like a month into the season. Is he still using that swing? Whether he's successful or not, is he still using that swing? Because if he, especially, but maybe even especially if he struggles with it, because it can be
Yeah.
really easy to go, well, this isn't working. Let me go back to what I'm used to.
And that might not even be a conscious choice.
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like it is.
The whole
So,
muscle memory thing.
yep, that's true.
He's
And you know what?
taken
He's been
so
doing it
many
for
more
years.
swings that old way than he has the new way.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm sure he's trying to make up for it with just constant batting practice using this new swing, but it's gonna be an uphill battle.
It
And
is.
this is not a criticism of MJ Melendez. I'm hoping that, one of the things everyone talks about is his work ethic. So I think if there's anyone who could pull something like this off, he would be one of the guys that I would think, yeah, he probably can figure that out. So I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. This is not a, yeah, let's see how he looks in a month. This is, let me see him in a month. I think this could happen. This could work. But let me that's the first checkpoint where I'm gonna be like, okay, yeah, he's still doing it. And especially if he doing it and he's not having success, okay, well, at least he's still doing it. Let's keep going. Is he doing
Hmm.
it and he's having success? Boy, like, are we on the verge of a breakout here?
Yeah. Could you? This is projecting like 2.5 months down the line. So I'm not going to get too far ahead from this. But if he comes out with like a red hot start and just put some of these concerns about the outfield to bed early on in the season, we're gonna have to talk about Piccolo in a different tone because like this is one of instead of no. Instead of having to go out and get free agents, this is an example of him trusting his
But
coaching
that's
staff.
that's not what it is though, is it? Because he did try to go out and get Santander. He did try to go out and get Profar. And here's the other thing, they have 2 bad outfield spots. So if
We're not
Melendez
talking
is
about the
really
other one.
good, boy, it sure would have been nice to have both the corner outfield spots fixed, wouldn't it?
We're not talking about the other side. We're not talking about right field. We're not talking about Runter Henfo. Okay, we're not talking about him.
Did you see there's some rumors that maybe the Blue Jays would like to trade George Springer?
Yeah, I did see that.
Does
That's
he
a
interest you at all, you think?
no,
Not
not at
really?
this. No, I mean wrong side of 35. He's got a
Yeah,
big
we're
old
not even the
contract.
wrong side of 30, the wrong side of 35.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I have
that's
zero
fair.
interest. Even
What
if it's
about what about Vladdy? Would you like the Royals to go get Vladdy Guerrero Jr. since he's
brother,
not gonna sign an extension?
if I would be elated if that happened. I
He's played third base before. They can move him back over there.
right?
It'll totally work.
Oh man, and you know what? It
If the
is
Royals did it, though, if the Royals did it, they said, "We traded for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. We're putting him back at third base." You wouldn't complain.
no, no, not at all. And truthfully, in that trade, you could probably move anyone in the farm system. I'd still be happy with it. Genuinely.
Well, talking about moving anyone in the farm system, did you have a chance to read my article from Monday?
No, I genuinely didn't. What was your article about?
So we talked about it a little bit last week,
Oh, the prospect value
the
one.
prospect value thing. So there was a little bit of an update. Carter Jensen got updated to a 50 FE, so now he is 53% chance to become a
All
starter or
right.
better at the
Yeah.
MLB level. Still basically a coin flip.
Yeah.
Oh,
Unfortunately.
and my big point that my big takeaway that I want to have from that article was not you should definitely do my proposed trade for Carter Jensen and everybody for Taylor Ward. You have to do it. My point was falling in love with individual prospects is gonna break your heart 9 times out of 10. The reason the Royals farm system works is because you look at Jack Caglione, Blake Mitchell, and Carter Jensen, and you say, yeah, you probably have 2 regulars out of those 3. You
What about the
almost
next
certainly
10?
don't have 3 regulars out of those 3. One of those
Probably not.
guys is gonna bust.
Yep.
So if you're looking at it going, those are the 3 guys, they're gonna lead us to no, probably not. It could happen, but the odds are very much against it. The way farm systems work is not individual prospects being like, yeah, that's the guy. It's you have a whole bunch of prospects and some of them have to hit, but most of them won't.
One of the best parts of baseball though, Jeremy.
Sure, if you say so. But this is where I came by my whole I don't pay attention to prospects until they're at least in double A, is because so many guys wash out of high A. And guys wash out of double A, they wash out of triple A all the time too. But like I'm trying to protect my heart a little bit. When I fall in love with those low A guys, it's just like Rony Cabrera. And then Rony Cabrera never makes it even to double A. And it's like what, the outfielder, Sully Matias. Everyone,
Yeah.
Sully Matias. Where is Sully Matias anymore? Is he
I don't
even
know.
in professional baseball anymore?
Probably not.
I'm gonna look him up.
I know mine was Eric Pena, like the big signing from that 2019 international free agent class, and he's probably not going to make it past Double A in his career.
Sully Matias is in the Mexican League.
There you go. He's
He
still
he
playing
is
ball.
he is the last time he played in a US league was 2022.
All right. Good for Sully. Good for him. Living his life. Anyways, before we get on to reviews, I do want our listeners to know about the automated ball strike challenge system
Yeah.
that they're going to
Talk
see
about it.
during spring training games. So number one, first and foremost, this is always one of the like top comments or first rebuttals to whenever people see ABS is like, oh, well, every single ball pitched is going to be called by a computer. Why do we need the umpires and da 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 da? No, this is a challenge system. MLB.com does have a good little video breaking down how that works. But all in all, it is initiated by the player. Like, hey, you called that a ball. I'm pretty sure that's a strike. Challenge it, and you only get a handful of them. And I don't know the number of games that we're going to see this for the Royals. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying 3 in the minor leagues. At least you get 3 challenges a game.
Right. So in spring training 2025, each team will start the game with 2 challenges apiece.
And if you're out there wondering, well, why don't they just actually have the robot call all the balls and strikes? The players prefer the challenge system for whatever reason. They were polled. They said they'd rather do a challenge system. And also, even if the robot was calling all the balls and strikes, you still need the home plate umpire for calling things like the pitch clock violations, for plays at the plate,
Yep, catcher
etc.
interference, stuff like that.
You can't just get rid of the home plate umpire. So if you're saying that, you're silly. Please reevaluate all the work that goes into being an umpire. It's more than you think.
That is true. That is true. So hey, I'm excited to see this at major league level. I've seen it in Norfolk Tides games and Omaha Storm Chasers games. Like it's a pretty straightforward part of the game that folks who've been playing in AAA for the past couple of years are pretty well used to now. Like that's just a part of the game. And they're still experimenting. I'm not saying like we're gonna see this in 2025
I
after
bet we
spring
will.
training. What'd you say?
Not this year. We'll see it next year.
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to see it next year if everything goes well. But MLB.com has a really like straightforward FAQ video breaking down this whole thing that you should go read if you're interested. All right, let's get on to our reviews, Jeremy, shall we?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. What do you got for us?
Okay, should I review the TV show that I really like, that I'm pretty much finished? I have 1 episode left in the first season. Or should I review the TV show I've been absolutely obsessed with, but I'm only halfway through?
The first one.
All right. So I've been watching with my mom in the same vein as Wild Cards, which I reviewed a week or 2 ago. I've also been watching High Potential, which is another kind of buddy cop TV show. This time it's a straight-laced cop paired up with a woman who is just kind of, she was a cleaner for the LAPD, and then she accidentally solved their case for them, and she's like, I have high potential IQ, so like I just see things that other people can't. Like, the premise is stupid, okay? Let's be upfront about that. The premise is stupid.
But
Using a certain percentage of your brain, blah 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 blah. Premise is stupid, but the characters are really fun. The relationship, especially between uh, Morgan, the cleaner, and the cop Karadek, um, is fun. They're snarky at each other in a pleasant way, and I enjoy it. Again, I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to watch a cop show. I don't want to glorify cops. I get it. That's fine. If I don't want to watch a cop show, there's not a lot of choices right now. There's some, but it's hard to find them. And trying to watch stuff with my mom, there's certain things I gotta stick to as well. So I'm watching this show and I'm just like, yeah, and I laugh every time, like, because she becomes a consultant for the LAPD, so she's not a cop. She's solving all the crimes. The LAPD, if you look at it from a certain way, the LAPD looks completely incompetent because none of them can solve a crime without this random cleaner lady coming in and showing them how it's done. And that's pretty fun. Though the last 2 episodes I watched had victims that I was like, I'm kind of fine with that person dying. There was an abuser who had been killed like 10 years before they decided to investigate the crime. And then in the last episode, it was an AI guy who was doing the large language models, the AI, the deep fake. They screwed up the technology. It doesn't work the way that they said it did, but he was obviously a stand-in for one of these AI tech moguls. And I'm like, first of all, you have too much money for me to care about you. Second of all, I mean, that's not fair, but second of all, the whole reason they thought, like, the motive they assumed for him being killed was because his app was used to deep fake something about this woman who ended up killing herself because she received so much problems from it. And like that's something that we have this whole era right now of technology advancing so fast. We have for years, maybe decades at this point, of technology moving so fast, and so many scientists, as Dr. Ian Malcolm would put it, asking themselves whether they can do it, not asking themselves if they should do it. Scientists were too busy asking how to ask why, or whatever it was. I'm obviously misquoting Jurassic Park very badly, but you all understand what I'm getting at. But anyway, back to off the soapbox, back to the show. The characters are a lot of fun. She's also a single mom of 3 kids, and watching her navigate that is okay. I gotta tell you, parenting in TV shows is really hit or miss with how
Yeah.
it's done, right?
Yeah.
And I really like the way they're handling it in this show. I love watching her interact with her kids. Like,
Okay.
normally I'm like, all right, I gotta do, this is the mom, this show has a mom or a dad, and I gotta watch them interact with their kids, and I'm gonna hate everything they do, and it's gonna be so stupid. But this show, I'm like, oh, watching interact with their kids, I'm like, oh, look at you, you're trying so hard to be a good mom. I love it. So there's a lot of good stuff happening in this show, despite the fact that, it's about cops solving crimes. And if you can get past that, you can have some fun.
There you go. All right. I like it. I like it. High potential. I know it's streaming somewhere. I can't remember
Hulu.
where though. Hulu. There you go. My review is over, and not an older film. It's almost 10 years old now, I guess. The Founder. It's from 2016. It's got Michael Keaton in it. He plays a guy called Ray Kroc, who eventually he's the head guy behind McDonald's becoming like a national brand. Very, very conniving manner. I just love Michael Keaton in this role. I really, really do. He's like this gritty, relatable sleazeball in this movie.
Sure.
But I
Michael
also
Keaton
love
is a terrific actor.
he is. He really is. I also really love so basically Ray Kroc, he takes the McDonald's property out from underneath the original owners, who are played by Nick Offerman and John Carroll Lynch, 2 of my favorite supporting actors. So I really, really enjoy that. It's got BJ Novak from The Office in it too, in a supporting role. It's overall just a really cool story. It's based off of a true story, so some of the stuff is dramatized. That's okay. For the most part, it's still true to the source material, which is just more capitalistic stuff.
What if I told you they filmed big chunks of that movie down the road from where my parents live?
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot
Huh.
of filming that happens here in Georgia because they have a lot of tax breaks for filming and stuff.
Nice.
And that was one of the movies that got filmed here. Also of note are the first couple seasons, maybe the whole thing, but definitely the first few seasons of The Walking Dead were filmed down the road from me. And also that Woody Harrelson zombie movie. What's the name of that movie?
Oh, I don't know. You're asking the wrong guy about that.
I can't remember the name of it, but that also was filmed here in this city. And in fact, what's really funny is watching that movie. They're walking down the street of a small downtown area that they say is in Texas. And I'm like, you are walking downtown of the city that I am currently in. Zombieland? I think that was the name of the movie, was Zombieland.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I've heard of Zombieland. I just don't know who the heck directed it.
And no, Woody Harrelson starred in it.
Okay. Yep. So that would definitely be Zombieland then. But yeah, the Founder. It's a good movie. It's not going to change your life. It's a good movie. I'm entertained. Learned a new little story.
I successfully hijacked your thing. I'd completely forgotten what you were even talking about before you reminded me. Good job.
Goodness. Hey, that's why we make such a great duo, Jeremy. That's just how it goes.
I hijack everything and then you bring it back to reality. Yes.
Well, no, I hijacked the start of this podcast by telling you when I was born. All right, I threw you off your game. To
You're
start
so
off.
young.
Does it
Can't
make your joints
believe
hurt a
it.
little bit?
Huh?
Does it make your joints hurt a little bit? Does it?
Everything makes my joints hurt a little bit.
Oh man, oh man. All right, listen, folks. That's just about going to do it for us here. Thank you for being here. Genuinely, go check out that book from Marshall Garvey. It's a good one. Let me tell you
What was
what
the name of the book?
it was. I always mess up the subtitle. The subtitle. That's why I gotta look it up every now and then. It is Interstate 85, the Royals, the Cardinals, and the Show Me World Series by Marshall Garvey. Comes out March
No
27th.
relation to Steve Garvey.
No relation to Steve Garvey. He made that very, very clear,
He
both
did.
ahead of the podcast and during it.
So I don't blame him.
I don't either. If you have to have a line that you need to draw in your life, that's kind of one of them. I would
I'm
say.
also not related to Steve Garvey, just to make that clear.
I will leave that up to interpretation for everyone if I am in fact related to Steve Garvey. But yeah, you can go find that book, pre-order it right now. It is available for pre-order on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, or you can buy it directly from University of Missouri Press. It's definitely worth it. It really, really is. So go check that out. I'm gonna have a review next month up on royalsreview.com for it. So if you just want to read that and then decide for yourself, you can check it out then. But I am Jacob Milham. They are Jeremy Greco. You can follow along with us on social media if you want. Our links are down in the podcast description below. But until next time, go Royals.
Here's where I'm going to pitch that you should buy it from bookshop.org, which allows you to buy books locally online instead of Amazon. Go do that.